Welcome to Pinnacle's NFL Best Bets for Week 12. I'm Anthony Bruno, joined by Scott Cullen on behalf of Pinnacle. Pinnacle is your trusted sportsbook for over 25 years, offering the best odds and best payouts, especially on the Week 12 NFL slate. All right, so we're coming off a pretty solid Week 11. We went 3-1. Scott, you were on fire last week, so let's not waste any time. You went a perfect 2-0. Give us your first best bet on the Week 12 slate.
The first best bet, Anthony, we're going with the San Francisco 49ers on the money line at Green Bay. And largely this is, the 49ers, they're 5-5, but their underlying numbers suggest that they are a better team than that. They're 6th in DVOA, 6th in offensive EPA per play, and they've done that for most of the season without Christian McCaffrey, who has been back now for a couple of games. He's gone over 100 yards from scrimmage in both of those games, so he is, a factor. And I think that, if you look at that DVOA, they're ahead of teams that are 8-2, 7-3. And so I think they're kind of underrated to make them underdogs here, as well as, the Packers have played, they've won 5 of their past 6 games. That includes a 1-point win last week against the Bears. I just think that the 49ers are the better team and that the Packers are sort of leaning on home field here to hold any kind of advantage. And I'm not sure that it's enough. So look, the line started this week. It was plus 125 for the 49ers. So I really like them then. But even at plus 109, where the line has moved to now, I'm still on San Francisco.
This is such a tough game. I don't have a strong opinion, honestly, on either side, but I do like the point that you made about Christian McCaffrey. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season, and obviously he's coming off that injury, but I feel like it's only a matter of time before this guy just has like a massive Christian McCaffrey game, and maybe it's going to be in this spot. Yeah, tricky game, but I like that you're taking a stand here on the 49ers.
After taking the Bills over the Chiefs last week, Anthony, anything is on the board.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like it, Scott. All right, so my first best bet on the slate is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 5.5 and minus 110 on the road against the Giants. And at the time of recording, this is currently the best price in market. So Tommy DeVito is starting for the New York Giants, which
there we
is
go.
probably
That's it.
It's probably, honestly, I could just end it right there with the analysis. He was a disaster last season. So among quarterbacks who played at least 200 snaps last year, he finished 38 out of 41 in EPA per play. And what's kind of crazy about this whole situation is that coming into the season, DeVito wasn't even the backup. It was actually Drew Lock, who in talking to the media earlier this week was like visibly pissed off that he is not playing quarterback right now for the Giants. So I don't know what to make of this situation. It just seems like it's kind of a disaster over there. Like they're clearly tanking. They clearly don't want to pay Daniel Jones. It's a mess all around. So this bet is more of an indictment on the New York Giants. Just a couple stats to throw your way. They're 0-6 at home this season with a minus 70 point differential. Their numbers across the board, when you look at any of the advanced stats, are not good. And listen, the Bucs aren't a good defensive team, I'll admit that. But they have been really good offensively. 7th in EPA per play, 5th in success rate. They're well rested, coming off a bye. Mike Evans looks like he's going to play after missing the last 3 games with a hamstring injury. So I am rolling with the Bucs to cover the spread at minus 5.5. And that leads perfectly, Scott, into your next best bet.
That's right. If we're going to bring up Mike Evans, I like Mike Evans for an anytime touchdown against the Giants. And, it's plus 166 on Pinnacle, which is, as far as I've seen, easily the best price in the market. And look, Evans is this reliable red zone threat for Baker Mayfield. And honestly, coming into the week, I was like, oh, maybe I should look to Cade Otton because Cade Otton has been performing really well recently. Giants have given up 1 receiving touchdown to a tight end all season. And so that sort of moved me off of Cade Otton into, let's grab Mike Evans, who has a much longer track record of scoring anyway. So I think, given the mess that the Giants are in, I think Evans is a good bet for a touchdown this week.
Yeah, Mike Evans has been so good to us this season when he's been healthy. Yes. And I remember taking a look at the stats before his injury. Like, he has scored a touchdown in close to like 85% of the games, I believe, that Baker Mayfield has been his quarterback. Like, it's pretty insane. when you look at the numbers just game by game with Mayfield and Evans on the field together. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard to ignore, especially when Pinnacle has the best price in market at plus 166, and you're going across the board looking at some of these other books that are at like plus 120, plus 140, plus 150. So, yeah, I love Mike Evans to find the end zone this week, who looks like he's finally healthy. All right. On to my next best bet. Speaking of teams that are a complete mess, like the New York Giants, this team might be an even bigger mess, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. They are a terrible football team. If you've been betting against this team every week, you've probably been making a lot of money. And I think this is a perfect bounce back spot for the Washington Commanders, who are hosting the Cowboys on Sunday. The Commanders coming off back-to-back losses against two good defenses in the Eagles and the Steelers. I really like the Commanders' team total in this matchup, over 27.5 at minus 121. The Cowboys are in shambles. They've given up 30-plus points in 4 of their last 5 games. They've given up 27-plus points in all 7 losses this season. They are dead last in opponent red zone touchdown percentage, allowing opponents to find the end zone nearly 75% of the time when they enter the red zone. They are terrible on the ground as well. So if you want to look at some Brian Robinson Jr. props, whether it's rushing yards or anytime touchdown, I think it's a pretty good spot for that as well. They've actually given up an NFL high 18 rushing touchdowns. So you can look at Brian Robinson Jr., Jaden Daniels perhaps. Another thing with Jaden Daniels, like he's kind of been battling that rib injury, and the Commanders had a mini bye after playing the Eagles on Thursday last week, so they're a little bit more rested. I just think it's a great spot for that offense that has been really good all season to get back on track after 2 tough games against Philly and Pittsburgh.
Well, this has been a Jaden Daniels supporting podcast all year. And it makes sense to go on this Cowboys defense. That stat you bring out about their red zone defense, like that is a break, don't bend defense. They talk about teams that can prevent teams from, scoring once they get in the red zone. The Cowboys are the exact opposite. They roll out the red carpet. And I do think that the team total makes sense there. I also look even at the game total, over 45, that between, as terrible as the Cowboys defense is, and their offense has not been great either, but Washington's defense is suspect. And there's a reasonable chance here that if Cooper Rush is to ever have some kind of success, passing to CD Lamb, that this might be the opportunity for it. And so I think, the Cowboys could give up 30 plus, but they also could score a couple of touchdowns in their own right to get this over 45.
Yeah, I kind of like the over in this spot as well. Like, even when you look at Cooper Rush's stats last week against the Texans, he threw for over 350 yards, and the Cowboys only put up 10 points. They've only put up 16 points in the 2 games that he has started the last couple of weeks since Dak went down. You got to think, like, they're capable of scoring more points than that. Like, you got to think maybe there's a little bit of positive regression there, as terrible as this team has been. So yeah, I like the over in this spot as well. Another game that I want to talk about, I won't classify this as an official best bet. It's kind of more of a gut feel play, or a lean, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the Colts plus 7.5 hosting the Detroit Lions. Listen, I get it. I've been betting on the Lions basically all season. They're the best team in football. This could be a little bit of a letdown spot. Like, I still think they win this game, but they're coming off that blowout win last week where they put up 52 points against Jacksonville. And this is a Colts team that all season has played some very close games. When you look at the Lions, they tend to absolutely steamroll awful teams, but when they play good teams, they've played in a lot tighter games. And I'm not saying the Colts are necessarily a good team, but I think they're good enough to keep this thing within a touchdown. And as bad as Anthony Richardson has looked at times this season, in the games that he has started and completed, the Colts have not lost by more than 6 points in any of those games. So, listen, call me crazy, but I just think, like, everyone's betting on the Lions. I don't want to say this is like the top of the market for the Lions, but I think this could be a pretty decent spot, especially considering coming off the blowout win last week. Next week is Thanksgiving. This could be a little bit of a letdown spot, and I think the Colts could keep this close with the spread at 7.5.
Well, I mean, this goes with all the momentum that the Lions have built up with their winning streak, and now they're the Super Bowl favorites in the betting markets. Like a few weeks ago, they were tied with Kansas City, and the momentum has just kind of continued for the Lions. But that applies to the other lines, right? Like, so the line this week being 7.5, it wouldn't necessarily have been that way all the way along, except that all this momentum is building towards the Lions, and at some point, public perception gets, maybe inflated on a team that has probably been the best team in football. And so I'm not sure I would take the Colts, but I understand where you're going here, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, it's always scary betting against this Lions juggernaut. They're very good on offense. They're good on defense. Now, they actually are dealing with some injuries on defense, so that could play a part in this game as well. Alex Anzalone has been placed on IR.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Colts have the weaponry, and they have a good enough team to keep this thing close. All right. That is going to do it for our Week 12 NFL Best Bets. We're looking to keep the momentum going after we went 3-1 last week. Like I say every single week, whether you're betting on main markets, player props, the futures market, you are going to get the best odds and the best payouts at Pinnacle, your trusted sportsbook for over 25 years. Just go check out the Week 12 slate for yourself. If you go through the entire slate, you will notice countless times where Pinnacle has the best price in the market. All right. For Scott Cullen, I'm Anthony Bruno. Thank you so much for tuning in. Best of luck with your Week 12 NFL Best Bets. We will be back to chat in Week 13. But until then, enjoy the football and remember to bet smart and bet Pinnacle.